Hello again, it's Noob, and it's review time. What are we reviewing? Well, if I pull these out, you'll see that this is the Sparrows Gridlock. And this Gridlock set is, I believe at the moment, 29 Canadian dollars. Very reasonable actually, because it comes to, I don't know, about £17. And what you get is you get 3 what looks like car ignition barrels with keys and a black wafer tension tool, which I actually quite like. I use them on Smiley Dimple locks. You'll see that they are numbered 3, 6 and 10. You might have already guessed that this is a progressive set, and I think that's a really good idea because picking these isn't immediately easy, even though wafer locks, you know, by and large are easier than most pin tumblers. This isn't quite the case with these. So 3 means 3 wafers, and you've got I think it's a 10 wafer key there. Got a 6 wafer and a 10 wafer. Let's put these to one side for a minute. We don't need to look at those at present, but let's have a look at one of these in more detail. A very clever design. You'll see that if you take this as the central position, turn it, you get probably about 160 degrees of turn, and that will signify an open, just like you sat in the car, turn the ignition on, or open the door, whatever. At the back, you can see that there is a small pin that actually stops the whole core of the lock from coming out. Be warned, the spring inside here is insanely strong, and whilst you can get this out with your fingers, once you get past this step, if you don't have your another finger holding this here, this will ping about 10 feet across the room. Just warning you. It's happened to me twice, actually, even though I've known this already. So, yeah, if you can make that mistake and you know about it, then just bear that in mind. Where's the spring? Somehow managed to not get the spring out at the same time. There we go. Don't want to twist it. Put those over here somewhere. Good, out of the way. Take the outer body off. And a couple of things to see inside here. From the back you can't see, but from the front you can. Where's my pick? This here and this here is where the wafers sit, and they've got to clear the shear line, which is here, to open. So at the moment these are all retracted. If I pull the key out, you'll see the wafers start to dance up and down as they rise and fall with the different bitting on the key. And bear in mind, these are not held in by anything more than a little bit of grease, and they will fall out if you're not careful. I happen to know that the key goes up to there, so you can see that the bitting is such that this would need to be picked downwards, this wafer downwards quite high, but the highest bitting on the key is for this wafer, the third wafer, and the second wafer actually doesn't need to be lifted up very far. Why am I saying lifted up and down? Well, it's because wafers are on little springs, as you can see. I'll leave the spring in there. If you don't know the springs are in there, you could be searching for them on your carpet if they all drop out, so just be aware when you're doing that. And the springs are pushing down on this little arm. So imagine that this is inside the core, spring pushing down. So that means that you're picking against this part of the wafer. You're actually picking against this instead of a pin, and you're lifting up. Let's put that back in. There we go. And you can see that what you're doing is you're going to pick these ones down and this one up, and they will reach the shear line and the lock will open. A couple of things though, you'll notice that there are serrations. These little teeth on the wafers will dig into the lock body, and they will act just like serrated pins but worse, and dig in. If you overset them, so if you push a wafer all the way down, brilliant, it's at shear line, but you push it too far, you'll see that the serrations on the wafer will appear at the other side, and they will also dig into the lock body and stop you from opening it. So it's like an overset trap. So that's why these are not particularly easy to pick, and why I think a progressive set is very wise, and why I think if you're curious about automotive locks, this is actually a really, really good set for an exceptional price, I have to say. So, they also offer an option for, I think, around 12 or 13 Canadian dollars for the rock out keys. They are Sparrow's own sort of jiggler keys. They are a really good length, those ones. Standard jiggler sets might need to be modified to get into the barrel, because bear in mind that the key goes into about here, so you've got to get all the way to this wafer at the end, the 10th wafer. And that's actually really, 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 really far down. Is that a problem? Well, not for the 3 and not for the 6 wafer versions, admittedly. But the 10 wafer one, which I haven't picked, well, if you've got tools which are too short, you might not get to that 10th wafer. So look where that key is. Pull that out. Okay, push that in as if it was in there, and you can see that you've got to get all the way back to where my thumbnail is here. Have a look at a standard pick. So that might not actually get to that end wafer. It might just, it's going to be hard. Same with jiggler tools. When I look at an automotive pick, so this is a rubbish Chinese brand, but this is an actual automotive pick, and you'll see that it's a lot longer, and that allows you a little bit more ability to get onto the pins. So if you are serious about learning automotive picking, might be worth you picking up an automotive pick set. Otherwise, try some of those Sparrows jiggler keys, because they are extra long compared to the other ones which you get online, so they will allow you to get to the back. Otherwise, just be careful that you might need to, be actually pushing the shoulders of picks into the actual lock itself, so you can actually reach the end pins, especially on this 10-pin one. And the other reason, so there's 2 reasons why I haven't picked this. I've been struggling to get to that last pin because I haven't really played around with other picks too much, and the other one was that my standard jiggler sets aren't long enough, while the Sparrows ones will be. So I think before I give conclusions, we should quickly vice up and pick one of them, just to show you what it's like and how you do that. I'll do it on the 3 because it's a review, not a picking video, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, we're in the vice, and a couple of tips is that I would recommend you treat this like a serrated pin lock. So don't try and hammer home the pin straight away. That will not work. You're going to have to sort of do it click at a time and feel for the core movement. Other thing is, when you're tensioning, hold the tension tool in close to the lock body itself, because it's quite easy to accidentally get excited and pull the tension tool out, because it's a loose tool by design. So it doesn't matter which side you tension it, but just hold it in close, and then you can always provide tension further out on the tool. But yeah, just make sure that when you are doing it, you hold it in so it doesn't come out. You can lever off the little tail pieces here. I find that's actually quite useful. And I'm using a Sparrows High HD, which is actually really good. It's a nice sturdy pick for this type of lock. So yeah, this is only 3 wafers, but it will still take a few seconds to pick. I'm in no doubt. So you've got 2 wafers at the bottom, 1 at the top. Let's have a go. So hear that? And that's the sound of a springy wafer, so it's not bound. So yeah, it's just about finding the binders. So wafer 3. If you find a binding wafer, you can actually just loosen up a little bit to get that click. There you go. And then wafer 1 is now binding. Little click. Again, if they click, move on. Don't spend any more time on them. Wafer 2, little click. and another one, a little core movement there. Let's go to the bottom. Go click on 3 and 1 and we're open. But just like serrated pins, here a click. Did the core move? Okay, if it didn't, just move on to another one, see if there's anything else binding. Then come back to it, give it another click, you know, and just rotate round. It does take some time. But you'll soon be picking the 6 and no doubt the 10 afterwards. But I do think this is actually good that these are, by design, a progressive set, as I've said before. Right, let me come back and I'll do a small conclusion. So, the Sparrows Gridlock set. What do I think to these? Well, I think that, as I said before, 29 Canadian dollars for these 3 progressive barrels and a tension tool with the keys. I think it's a pretty unbeatable price. They're made very well. They're not immediately easy, and they do have false gates or serrations on those wafers. So they're not like a standard wafer lock. And if you're kind of sick of picking away through little wafer cam locks and you want to just practice a wafer lock with a bit of a bite, then this is a good place to start. If you're into automotive picking, then I think actually this is probably a good place to start too. As I said, you probably want to make sure that you get, if you're into jiggling or rocking these types of locks, then you probably want to get something that's going to be long enough for the barrel. The Sparrows jiggler keys are marketed with these, and they would work. I believe that the Sparrows Warlock is quite useful for these types of locks too. Any improvements? Only to say, because you can actually repin these once you've played around with them, you can swap the wafers out. So there's endless amounts of variations you can do with these. So that's excellent. The only thing I'd say is it'd be nice to have a dedicated automotive pick set, even if it's only 2 or 3 picks to go with these, because I think the joy in picking these locks actually isn't through rocking and raking. It's through actually learning to pick the wafers as if they were serrated pins. And whilst picks like this, really nice Sparrows High HD, do the job, I would like them to be a tiny bit longer, maybe about 10mm longer, and maybe have one with a little groove cut in the top for wafers in the locks. Those kind of things really. It just like 2 or 3 automotive picks by Sparrows would go a long way. Other than that though, I would say to you, yeah, if you're interested in automotive picking, if you want to learn some wafer locks that actually offer a challenge, I just don't think you can go wrong for that price. I really don't. So yeah, if you're interested, go check out the Sparrows website and grab yourself some gridlock. I will see you next time.